Dear students, dear viewers, you are once again welcome to this lecture. We are continuing to look at the scholarly rating, and in the previous lecture we introduced ourselves to predatory journals, or what we call fake or deceptive journals. So we looked at what they are and how we can avoid them. How, as a researcher, you can be able to make a distinction between a fake journal and a genuine journal. Because that one is very, very important for you to, as an author, to be able to make that distinction. Otherwise, you risk wasting your energies and wasting your efforts publishing with fake journals or fake publishers. So in this lecture we are going to continue with the same, but this time we are going to look at why you as an author, you should avoid predatory journals. Why should you avoid predatory journals? Of course, we know that if you are working, for example, with an academic institution, the pressure to publish is immense. Because for you to be able to move from one academic level, one academic position to another, you will need, one of the things you need is are publications. And therefore sometimes as academics, we find ourselves with a lot of pressure to publish. Because we have that pressure, so sometimes we don't scrutinize, we don't try to find out what are genuine journals and what are fake journals. So why should we avoid them? One is that you should avoid them because you might get, first of all, charged an exorbitant rate for publishing your paper. You will pay highly, but you produce very low quality work. Because when you submit your article as an author, your manuscript as an author, then your manuscript is subjected to peer review. And with the peer review, you are assisted to improve the quality of your work. But with these predatory journals, you really risk paying a high amount of article processing fees when you are not going to get any help to improve your manuscript. So that is why you should avoid them. And of course, if you submitted your work to a genuine journal, then it will be taken through all the normal processes of peer review. Your work will be critiqued, will be corrected, and then your work will be improved, and eventually you will get a quality article being published. Then two, you might first be notified after acceptance of your paper that you have to pay a fee. So of course this one is connected to the above point that I have already said, that you will pay exorbitant rates. So these guys, for them, their main aim is to, get money from you, get money from an author. So that is why you should really try to avoid them. Then three is that your paper eventually will no longer be accessible if the publisher doesn't have long-term storage policy. So because these fake journals, these fake publishers, they really don't have the long-term storage policy. So you'll find that your article will appear online maybe for 1 month or 2 months, and then when you come to check again, maybe in the 3rd month or the 4th month, you'll find that your work is nowhere online. It has already disappeared. Because these people don't have really readily available servers and a storage policy that can keep your work online for eternity. So you find that you have made a publication, but after some time you can't see. You are nowhere, you are not visible online. Then also, why, as an author, you should avoid predatory journals is to safeguard your credibility. So your credibility as a younger scholar can be damaged by publishing in these fake, in these deceptive journals. In as much as there is that pressure for you to publish, you would rather take time but identify an authentic journal, so that when you publish with it, then your work, first of all, will not be put in question. So you have, as an academic, you have to safeguard your credibility. If you're working with an institution and all your works, all your papers, all your publications are published with fake journals, first of all, you will not even meet your mission. Because you always wanted to publish so that you can move from one level to another. But if the institution gets to know that your work is fake because you have published with a fake institution, then your credibility is ruined. So that is why we have to make sure that we avoid these predatory or these fake or these deceptive journals. Then also, fake peer review undermines the scientific conversation. When articles like these are published without peer review, it can allow misinformation to enter the broader research community. We are talking of misinformation because there is nobody who will critique your work, who will give that second look in regard to your work. And therefore, your work can eventually, come out with misinformation. Your work can eventually be published when really it is communicating or giving out wrong information. Because the peer review process would assist iron out that. Because you have 2 or 3 reviewers who will also look at your work, who will critique it, and who will tell you what possible corrections you have to make so as to make your work authentic and acceptable. So you as an author, you really have to always make sure that you first of all identify and then be able to avoid these predatory journals. So now we are moving on, and we are saying that the publishing in a low quality journal can make your research harder to find and less likely to be used by others. We have already said that with these fake journals, they will publish articles, but the articles will just be online for a very short time. That is why they were saying that publishing in a low quality journal can make your research harder to find. Because now as an author, if your research cannot be found online, it means that nobody will read your work and nobody will cite you. And if your work is not cited, then you know what that means as an academic. That means your credibility, that means your score, in as far as research is concerned, your score is affected. Then you could be scammed and lose your work. The goal of predatory publishers is to convince authors to pay an article processing charges while performing the least amount of work possible on the publisher's side. So you can be scammed and lose your work. If, for example, you published, maybe you got an appointment or you are offered a job on the basis of some publications. So should it be found out later on that you were taken on the basis of false publications, then you can even eventually lose your work. So that is why, as authors, whether you are a senior author or whether you are a novice author, you should always try as much as possible to avoid these predatory journals. Now we cross on to another aspect, which we call the peer review process. Now the peer review means that it is an evaluation of the scientific or academic work conducted by experts of a particular field. So just as you hear that word peer, it means that peer in the normal sense, in the literal interpretation of the word, it would mean people of the same age, people of the same standing, people of the same qualification. So that's what it would mean by peer. So, but now in the research perspective, when we talk of the peer review, it means that your work is given to people who have similar qualifications with you, so that they can read it, they can critique it, so that they can improve its quality. Now, peer review is an established and recognized process in academia. It provides various fields of study with systems of measurement, expectations, and guidance to ensure published work is consistent with the predetermined academic standards. So the peer review process is very, very important. And why it is important and why it is always encouraged, because it will help improve the quality of your work before it is eventually published. So peer review has been a formal part of scientific communication since the first scientific journals appeared more than 300 years ago. So peer review is not just a recent concept. It is as old as I can say as research itself. It is an integral part of the publication process and helps journals to publish only those articles that are consistent with their scope and quality standards. So in the previous lectures, we are talking about identification of a journal where you can submit your work for publication. But one other aspect that is very, very important when you're identifying a journal, for example, when you go on a journal website and you read all other details, one of the most important details that you should always check as an author is the peer review process. Should you find that the article doesn't have that peer review process and the peer review is not mentioned anywhere, then you should go slow about that journal, because that will be an indication. Excuse me. That will be an indication that the journal is fake. Now, let us look at the types of peer review. Now, the first type is what we call the single blind peer review. Now, in the single blind peer review, authors are unaware of who reviewed their paper, but reviewers are aware of the author's identity. So why do we always have to keep this single blind peer review? Where you find that you as an author, you are not aware of the reviewer who is reviewing your work, but the reviewer will be aware of you, will be aware of whose work he or she is reviewing. So that is what we call the single blind peer review. And of course, this assists to eliminate all aspects of bias, to eliminate all aspects of giving excuses and what. Because as an author, maybe if your paper is rejected, you might be tempted to think that, no, maybe the other author is maybe not my friend, or the reviewer is not my friend, or the reviewer is biased, and so on and so forth. So, having the blind peer review helps majorly avoid that kind of bias. So we are going to take a short break, and when we return, we shall continue looking at the types of peer review. Thank you so much, and we'll see you when we return. Thank you.